So you've been thinking about getting a new car, and you're like, do I get a gas one? Do I get an electric one? What's the difference? What's going on here? Well, let's talk about it, because electric cars were invented more than 100 years ago, but until recently, they were just a small niche in the auto market. Now, electric vehicles are a more practical option thanks to advances in technology, and a growing number of consumers are making the switch after considering the pros and cons. So let's talk about some of those. Let's start off with the upfront costs. Electric vehicles, they've come down in price, but you're still usually going to pay a higher price for an electric car compared to a gas powered car. Kelly Blue Book reports that in November of 2021, electric vehicles sold for an average of about $56,000, where gas powered cars were about 26 for compact, 32 for midsize, and 43 for full size. Another consideration is that if you go electric, you'll probably want to purchase an upgraded charger for it, right? That level 1 charger, just a cord you plug into a wall, that might take 20 hours to charge, but a level 2 charger is going to be necessary if you want a full power overnight, right? Get the job done in about 4 to 8 hours, but it's going to cost about an extra $2,000 on average. Okay. What about maintaining them? Which one costs more, gas or electric? Well, maintenance costs are typically higher for gas cars than for electric. I mean, gas cars need regular oil changes. There's more wear and tear on the brakes. There's also a lot more mechanically under the hood, meaning more parts are likely to break down. Consumer Reports estimate that buying an electric car results in a savings of about $4,600 on repairs over the vehicle's lifetime, right? Now, in terms of cost per distance traveled, an electric car typically incurs scheduled maintenance costs of about 6 cents per mile, while scheduled maintenance on a gas car adds up to about 10 cents per mile. Well, car warranties are going to reflect the difference in repair needs as well. That's common for the warranty on an electric car's battery to extend for 8 to 10 years or cover 100,000 miles. In comparison, the warranty on a gas car is 3 years or 36,000 miles. But in the event that an electric vehicle needs a major part replaced, I wouldn't want that bill. According to Consumer Reports, putting in a new battery pack could cost about $5,500. A new electric motor, you're talking $7,000 to $9,000. That's quite a bit higher than, the 3 to 4 grand it might take to rebuild an engine. Or if you've got a small 4 cylinder engine, just replacing it's only going to cost you like 4 grand, right? Not bad. Okay. What about those fuel expenses? Because it costs to fill up that combustion engine, right? All right, well, you would think that electric cars can offer dramatic savings compared to gas powered cars, right? Well, let's look at the numbers. So let's consider a Kia, right? A Kia Rio. It's a fuel efficient subcompact sedan. I guess 36 miles per gallon for combined city highway driving. Now, the U.S. Department of Energy offers estimates of fuel costs for this and other vehicles, depending on how much you're planning to drive the car and the price of gas. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation's Transportation Statistics Report of 2020, a vehicle is typically out on the road for a little more than about 10,000 miles per year. And as of April 2022, gas was around $4.10 per gallon. So, assuming you're going to drive 27 miles most workdays, plus an extra 4,000 miles a year on other trips, for a total of about 10,600 miles a year, and you're paying about $4.10 per gallon, you can plan on buying 285 gallons of gas a year, meaning that's about $1,200 on gas a year. That's pretty close to $100 a month, right? It works out to about 11 cents a mile for fuel. For a second gas powered example, let's use something heavy, an SUV like a Toyota 4Runner. It's about 17 combined miles per gallon. Now, if you drive that same distance with it, now it's 602 gallons of gas a year. Now it's $2,500 annually for gas, or $206 a month. The fuel cost would add up to a little more than 23 cents a mile. I mean, we're talking double it. Okay, what about examples for electric cars? They still got fuel expenses. You gotta top them off, because Okay, let's look at the Nissan Leaf. Right, it's got a range of about 226 miles. Uses 31 kilowatt hours of electricity for every 100 miles driven. If you're driving the same amount as we just talked about, you're going to use 3,408 kilowatt hours of electricity each year. In January of 2022, consumers paid an average of 13.72 cents per kilowatt hour. If you're charging at home, then you'd pay about $468 per year for electricity. That's about $40 per month and it works out to a little over 4 cents per mile. So let's use another example. Let's look at the Chevy Bolt. It's got a range of 260 miles and uses 29 kilowatt hours per 100 miles driven. So to travel that same distance, you're going to need 3,110 kilowatt hours per year, which would cost about $427 annually or $36 a month for at-home charging. That translates to 4 cents a mile to power that car. One thing to be aware of, though, is that if you're not charging at home, but instead you're buying electricity at these charging stations, you could end up paying way more, right? You're more likely to pay about 44 cents for a kilowatt hour of electricity at a public station. So, if you use public charging like exclusively, you're going to pay about $1,500 a year to power that Nissan Leaf, or about $1,400 a year for the Chevy Bolt. Buying a charger is essential if you want to enjoy lower fuel costs. And as you can see, it costs much less to charge an electric vehicle than to buy gas, as long as you're using your own charger. Your exact savings is going to depend on, current price of gas, electricity, your vehicle's efficiency, how far you're driving, but overall, the Environmental Protection Agency estimates that if your household switches one of its main cars to an electric vehicle, your fuel costs go down by about $500 to $1,000 a year. Okay. Well, what about taxes and credits for gas or electric vehicles? Because, okay, you're driving a traditional car, like a gas car. You pay taxes when you fuel up. If you drive an electric car, you're not paying for gas, you're not paying those taxes. But you might owe an extra registration fee, depending on your state. You can look up your state's fees on the National Conference of State Legislatures website. You might qualify for a tax credit or other incentives to help offset the cost of a new electric car. The U.S. Department of Energy offers a list of the federal tax credits available for certain models. It also provides a search function to help you find incentives in your state. Tax credit and other incentives, they vary by state, so make sure you guys do your research. Okay, well, what about reselling the vehicle? Do gas or electric vehicles resell better? Well, if you're concerned about it, there's really no clear answer. In the past, electric cars depreciated faster than gas-powered competition, but that could be because buyers were concerned that electric vehicles' range might not hold up in the long term, or because tax incentives made by new electric cars more attractive. But in 2022, the price of some used electric vehicles have been buoyed by high gas prices and a shortage of new models for sale. If you expect high gas prices to persist and electric vehicles to grow in popularity, you might be optimistic about an electric car's resale prospects. On the other hand, if you want a car with a track record of holding value over time, you may prefer a model with a combustion engine. So, the big question, which car is better for the environment? Okay, both gas and electric vehicles have negative implications for the natural world. If you look at different points in a car's lifetime, you might reach different conclusions about which option is better for the environment. First, there's manufacturing. Building a battery for an electric car takes more energy and can release more greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, driving climate change. So, if you're comparing a gas powered car and an electric car at the dealership, the electric car might be responsible for higher emissions at that stage. But as these two types of vehicles head out on the road, gas powered cars take a greater toll on the planet. Gas cars contribute to air pollution with the exhaust they let out, while electric cars don't produce any tailpipe emissions. And the gas that goes into a car comes from oil that first has to be taken out of the ground, then processed, then transported, adding emissions at every step of the way. Of course, the electricity used to power an electric car is also used, from fossil fuels, right? It's produced from fossil fuels, but on average, the emissions generated by driving an electric car are well below those generated by a gas car. In the US, driving a gas powered car typically releases 381 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent per mile, while driving a battery based electric car produces only 110 grams of carbon dioxide equivalent per mile. And as green energy sources become more prevalent, the carbon emissions from electric cars will likely fall further. The balance shifts back towards gas after vehicles reach the end of their useful lifetimes and are scrapped. The parts that make up a gas car can largely be reused, but spent electric vehicle batteries, they're kind of tricky to recycle, and there's no standard system in place to reclaim them. And if these batteries are put into landfills, heavy metals can leak out into the surroundings, and that's going to pose a really bad hazard. All in all, electric vehicles usually come out ahead in terms of environmental impact because the benefits from the fuel efficiency outweigh the emissions from manufacturing and disposing of. But there's still some work to be done when it comes to reducing harm to the earth, right? And it's close. It's not like one is really far ahead of the other, right? So, again, as is with everything, make sure you do your own research. So, if you're thinking about getting a new car, right? Hopefully, this gets you guys heading down that right direction, gets you thinking about the stuff that you should be thinking about, and hopefully, you make a good decision that's best for you. Right? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate it if you did. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Y'all be safe.